Hey there, this is Alexis Knight. Welcome to True Crime, the Court of Public Opinion. Today here, I have a special episode for you of Alexis Knight Investigates, following up on the Menendez Brothers case. Why aren't they out? What is going on? And most importantly, will they ever get out? These are the questions we all want answers to. Let's get into it. This is the second episode that I am doing on the Menendez Brothers. I will link to the first episode in the description. An amazing case resurfacing in the public eye. Now, when we last discussed the Menendez Brothers, momentum was building for their release. Public opinion had shifted dramatically, with many people advocating that their sentences no longer reflected today's understanding of abuse and trauma. Even the Los Angeles district attorney at the time, George Gascon, had backed their release. So what has happened since then, after all of that hype and discussion? Now things have changed. The brothers remain incarcerated and the road to freedom is murkier than ever. Did you know this? The new DA, there's a new DA in town, Nathan Hochman. He's taken a drastically different approach to this case. And this is all happening. And does the public know? Because the public just thought they got something accomplished. But now here we have this new DA stalling the resentencing process and casting doubt on the brothers' claims of abuse. Casting doubt. And the media, once fervently covering their story, has gone quiet, leaving the public in the dark. Now, isn't that interesting? This is a high-profile case that would be a hook. We've talked about this. So why aren't they sharing this for all their sensationalism? Well, it's because the public opinion doesn't align with what it is that's going on. They're trying to avoid this release. This would cause outrage, and they don't want this to happen, so they're not telling you all about it. It's not everywhere in the news across the nation. So what's really happening behind the scenes here? Why does it feel like this case is slipping away? Is it? Well, let's break it down. For years, the Menendez Brothers case, it's been a symbol of how societal views on justice and abuse can evolve. In the 1990s, Lyle and Erik were painted as spoiled rich kids who killed their parents for money. Their claims of horrific abuse, well, those were dismissed by prosecutors as an elaborate ploy for sympathy. But as more information came to light and as public awareness of abuse dynamics grew, many began to see their case in a different light. In 2022, the brothers petitioned for a new sentencing hearing, citing the abuse they endured as a mitigating factor. Their argument, bolstered by testimony from other victims of their father, Jose Menendez, who corroborated the brothers' claims of sexual and physical abuse. George Gascon, then serving as DA, just not that long ago, guys. Remember that? Well, he reviewed the evidence and publicly stated that their sentences should be reconsidered. He recommended resentencing to 50 years to life, making them eligible for parole immediately. Now, this development gave their supporters hope. And more supporters than before, because as we have learned about sexual abuse and trauma and what causes these things to happen, many agreed they have served their time. And for the first time in decades, it seemed like their freedom was within reach. The public, galvanized by social media and documentaries shedding light on the case, rallied behind them. But then, Gascon's term ended and the tide turned. So I guess justice turns with terms. Is that what we do here in America? The optimism around the Menendez brothers' release, it took a hit when Nathan Hochman replaced George Gascon as the LA district attorney. Hochman's approach to the case has been far more conservative, and his public statements suggest skepticism about the brothers' claims of abuse. That is pretty outrageous after all of this time and after everything that just happened. Immediately, he has shifted the narrative to they are not credible. And we didn't even see it happen, not all of us. He reassigned key personnel involved in the resentencing process. That's something you didn't see. That's something the media didn't tell you. And this delays progress. And it also signals a potential departure from Gascon's recommendations, doesn't it? Yes, it does. And critics argue that these delays are intentional. Of course they're arguing this. It's a way, they say, to quietly let the case stall and maybe just go away without drawing public outrage. I want you to notice how they draw you in when they need you. And you get drawn in when it's something that actually interests you. But they take it away from you when it no longer serves them. So see, you want to feel good about letting out the Menendez brothers if you're on that side of things. Well, you may never hear about this again if the public doesn't demand more attention on this, because they simply let everything dissolve. We see it happen over and over again. I mean, if people aren't talking about it, the pressure on the DA's office diminishes and dissolves. The DA's team has cited the need for an additional review. This is the new DA, even though moments ago, it seems, literally weeks before, the existing DA already did all of that. But supporters of the brothers see this as a stalling tactic to review this again. It's not a genuine reassessment. The reassessment had already happened. This raises an important question. Why isn't the public being kept informed? You see, the public had a lot of attention in this, and so they still would, one can presume, if they knew about what was going on. But now they're being directed to other things, like drones and presidents, and Christmas. And so it's so easy for the public to forget about something that they actually really cared about. I mean, for the people that were intensely involved here and supporting the Menendez brothers, and I know there are people that want to keep them in, but I'm just using this as an example for the supporters. They were all involved. They had the media support. Things were happening, the momentum, and now it's gone if you didn't notice. And the lack of updates from the media, it compounds the frustration from the public, who's also being quiet, because there are people in the public that do notice this. Unfortunately, there are just too many in the public that don't. The Menendez brothers case, it was once front page news a long time ago and not that long ago. And there was a rallying cry for justice reform, literally a few months ago. And now it's as if the case has been swept under the rug. Is this deliberate? And if so, what is it they're trying to hide? Why not just let them out if that is the right thing to do? And that's what we're using this case for right now, is to discuss what is going on with this case and also discuss this case. These victims and the public, for anyone looking to get them out, they did get that relief just a moment ago. And now it's completely gone. It has been removed. When the previous DA voiced support for the brothers' release, it gave hope. It reignited public discourse about the case. Social media lit up with posts advocating for their freedom. That's the stance they took. And documentaries brought their story to a new generation of viewers who had a lot to say about what happened here. But then the sudden shift in DA leadership, it's muted this momentum. The brothers' case is now faded from the headlines and left the supporters wondering, what's going on here? Where's the outrage now? Where'd the media go? They were supporting us and now they're gone. Do we, the people, have no power without the media? I say we do. We just play follow the leader way too long. This silence from the media, it highlights a very troubling trend in modern day, okay? News outlets once committed to following stories to their conclusion. All they're doing now is chasing the next viral moment. So everything that you think you care about, everything you get riled up about, are you even noticing that it just goes away until they feed you the next spoonful of sensationalism? Stories like the Menendez brothers case, these are serious cases, and they require long-term attention and nuanced reporting of all that is going on. And because it's not as interesting to you or might upset you that the DA has a different opinion, this new DA, they just don't want to talk to you about it. And so what's really happening is, if this is a path for justice for these two, they're simply taking it away because they're not going to talk to you about it, because they don't want to let them out. They don't want to involve you in the decision. I mean, this is a really bad trend that just goes on and on and on. The public is reliant on media for updates on things like this, and being left in the dark, there's nothing else for the public to say, which is what they want. I mean, for cases like this, the public pressure is crucial because without it, officials have very little incentive to act swiftly, or even act at all. But how can the public demand action if they're not even aware of delays like this or issues like this? This is a vicious cycle, the one we're discussing here today with this case, and it leaves families and supporters feeling powerless because really, in that position, they kind of are. Now, for the Menendez brothers, every passing day for them in prison, it just feels now like another injustice. They almost were home for Thanksgiving, some thought. And again, let's not get involved in what side you are on specifically. But why is this case being buried? Hey, if you're a supporter to keep them in prison, why aren't they telling you about it? Maybe it's because there's more supporters to let them out, and they don't want to upset the public because the public can create change. We are our own secret weapon, yet we choose to follow. And they know this, and they love this. But okay, let's get back to the facts of what's going on here. The new DA's stance, it's raised eyebrows, with many questioning whether this guy's approach is truly about ensuring justice or simply about playing it safe politically. I mean, this case has been gone over a bazillion times. What is he trying to find? He doesn't know if they were abused. This has already been gone over in court, and they have already served time. This is what the previous DA had already stated. So why again? Critics argue that this hesitation, it stems from a lack of accountability. After all, the first DA, who was elected on a reformist platform, openly recommended resentencing. This is a bold move, and it resonated with the public. They were okay with this in general. Now, the new DA, however, this guy was appointed, not elected. This is another small detail you may not know. This distinction is very important because it creates skepticism about whether his priorities align with the will of the people. The people did not choose this person. How and why was he appointed? What the new DA is saying today now is that he's arguing that the claims of abuse have already been fully aired during the original trials, and he's suggesting that revisiting the case now is a dangerous precedent. But is this concern genuine, or is it a convenient excuse to avoid public scrutiny? We've seen this happen over and over again, guys. What is your real opinion on that? I mean, critics argue that Hochman's hesitation stems, he's the new DA, from a lack of accountability because he was appointed and not elected. It just is something that's going to come up over and over again. People want to know, is he delaying the case under the guise of review, but really trying to, quietly bury a politically sensitive issue? The Menendez brothers' supporters, well, they're not buying these excuses. For them, this is not about setting precedents. It's about correcting a decades-long injustice. And every delay only deepens their frustration because to them, justice is not being served, and they're getting away with it, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. The Menendez brothers' case, it underscores a bigger issue, like so many cases do. The media's inability or unwillingness, really, to follow through on stories that matter to us, the public. They brought the stories to us, they got us involved, but once they get what they want out of it done, they don't need us anymore, so it doesn't matter to you. It's not news for you, it's an agenda for them. When the brothers' petition for resentencing first made headlines, it reignited public interest and generated important conversations about abuse, justice, and reform. But as soon as the story lost its immediate novelty, it was pushed aside in favor of newer, flashier headlines. And of course, we have a new DA. This isn't just a disservice to the Menendez brothers, okay? This is a disservice to you, to all of us in the public. The media was once a tool for accountability, keeping officials in check and ensuring transparency in high-profile cases. But now, news outlets are driven by clicks, chasing the next viral story, rather than committed to sustained reporting of the truth and facts. As Alexis Knight investigates, one question looms large. What happens when the media stops telling us what's really going on? I mean, for cases like this, public outrage depends on public awareness. I mean, they need to tell us what's really going on when they are talking to us about a story, and they need to keep up on a story and tell us what is going on. Without coverage, people cannot advocate for change. And this is part of the whole format, isn't it? For the Menendez brothers, how can the wheels of justice turn if no one knows they are stuck? This is the point. At the heart of the Menendez brothers' case lies a frustrating reality. Justice delayed is justice denied, all right? Despite the mounting evidence of abuse, the previous DA's recommendation for resentencing, and overwhelming public support, the case has hit a standstill. That is outrageous. For Lyle and Erik, who have spent over 3 decades behind bars, each delay feels like a denial of their humanity. Supporters argue that their continued incarceration is a relic of the justice system that prioritizes punishment over understanding, and that this would not happen the same way today. In today's world, where abuse survivors are more likely to be believed, it's very hard to imagine the Menendez brothers receiving the same sentence if their trial were held now. And that's the problem everyone is having. We evolve as humans. We do get smarter. Why can't we act on that? Because despite this shift in societal attitudes, the legal system, it just remains resistant to change. And the public wants answers. They've made that clear. The people that know about this stall in the case, they want to know why it has not moved forward. And more people need to know that it has not moved forward and that it is at risk. Why does it seem like the system is working against them? Many people came forward in support of this. They think their work is done. They feel like they made a difference. And without the media telling them anything about it, they have no idea that it's all being reversed. Will these delays ever end? Or are Lyle and Erik destined to remain behind bars indefinitely? And the bigger question, will the public opinion of what they want be ignored indefinitely when it doesn't serve an agenda? And then, of course, the biggest question, what's the public going to do about it? As much as supporters want to believe that justice will prevail, come on, guys, the reality is far from certain. The brothers' case is no longer just a legal battle, okay? This is now a political one. Why? Because it is. In politics, public perception often carries more weight than the facts. So the public opinion does matter. But the media went quiet, and therefore so does the public. See how that works? The new DA's reluctance to act, it raises a sobering question. Does he truly intend to revisit this case? Does he? Or is he just hoping the public will eventually lose interest? If the latter is true, the Menendez brothers may find themselves trapped in a bureaucratic limbo, their fate tied to the whims of officials who are more concerned with optics than outcomes. For many, the idea of the brothers walking free feels like a distant dream. This is for the supporters. I mean, after all, the justice system is notoriously slow to admit its mistakes. But this is the problem, right? We can't just, we know they're slow. No. If an injustice is being done, this is immediate. We don't accept that it's notoriously slow. Again, we have been primed and conditioned, guys. It's okay, it's notoriously slow. What if it were you? I mean, for Lyle and Erik, And for those who believe in their right to a fair reassessment, hope does remain, the fight isn't over, as long as there are people willing to speak up. And that is why I'm doing this episode. There's still chance for change. Okay, well, let's look at what could happen here. What happens if they stay in? If the Menendez brothers remain incarcerated, this sends a powerful and troubling message, about how the justice system handles cases where abuse and trauma are involved. These are extremely serious cases, and we're still learning about them, but we know so much more than we did way back then. Their continued imprisonment, these brothers, it would signal that even with mounting evidence of abuse, the system is simply unwilling to revisit past convictions, no matter how outdated the perspectives were at the time. This could have far-reaching implications for others in similar situations. It raises questions about whether the legal system is equipped to evolve with society's understanding of abuse, mental health, and trauma. These are uncomfortable issues, and a lot of people, they just don't even want to discuss them. But for survivors of abuse who acted out in self-defense or under extreme duress, the Menendez brothers' case stands as a litmus test. If they can't get their sentences revisited, what hope is there for others? Beyond the legal implications, there's a human cost to consider here. Lyle and Erik have spent over 30 years in prison, and while they've managed to build lives within those walls, and they agreed, and actually they wanted to go to prison for their crime. They were not happy about what they had done, so they said. But these are still men who were teenagers when this all began. So how much longer must they wait for justice? While the legal system operates within its own framework, public pressure always has played a significant role in driving change. For the Menendez brothers, the court of public opinion has shifted dramatically in their favor over the years, along with our understanding about what happened because of the issues in general that we're learning more about. Documentaries, interviews, social media campaigns, they've all shed light on their story. Some new light, rallying supporters from all walks of life. But the public's attention is fleeting. And without sustained advocacy, the momentum behind their case risks fading away. And this is exactly what officials like our new DA could be counting on. That as time passes, people will move on to the next big story and leave the Menendez brothers to languish in prison, never having to deal with this case again. Could be. That's what people are wondering. That's why they're skeptical. And that's why it's so important to keep this story alive, because cases like this remind us that justice isn't about the law. It's about people. It's about holding those in power accountable as well, even when they'd rather the public look the other way. One of the most glaring issues in the Menendez brothers' case is the lack of transparency. From the sudden shift of the DA's stance to the media's silence, the public is left piecing together fragments of information. This lack of clarity undermines trust in the justice system, leaving supporters and critics alike questioning the motives behind these delays. And transparency isn't just about keeping the public informed. It's about accountability. If the DA's office is stalling, let's say, the public has a right to know why. If the case has legitimate hurdles, those should be communicated. But silence, and I'm not sure if they were abused or, this fuels speculation. It creates an environment where conspiracy theories and doubt thrive. For Alexis Knight Investigates, this is a central theme. How do we as a society demand transparency when the systems designed to provide it seem to actively work against it? As we look ahead, the next key date in the Menendez brothers' case is their rescheduled resentencing hearing, which is set for January of 25, if you didn't know. This hearing will likely determine whether they have a real chance at freedom, or if they're going to remain behind bars indefinitely. This is very serious. But even this date feels tenuous, given the history of delays and shifting priorities within the DA's office. It's just a date. Supporters of Lyle and Erik, they're not backing down. Social media campaigns and advocacy efforts, they do continue to shine a light on their story, trying to refuse to let it fade into obscurity. But the question remains, will it be enough? Are there enough people in the public making this noise? Because there certainly were enough people who cared about this position and were making a lot of noise before. And so it gets really quiet when the media doesn't involve the public. And sometimes people that even want to support something forget about it, and then they miss it and it's gone before they have a chance to revisit it. So we need to know about these dates. We need to find this information for ourselves. I mean, ultimately, the Menendez brothers' fate hinges on a combination of legal arguments, public pressure, and then the willingness of officials to confront uncomfortable truths. It's a complex and deeply human story, and it's one that forces us to confront our own beliefs about justice and accountability and redemption. Okay, well, as we wrap this up, the Menendez brothers' case isn't just a story about two men seeking freedom. This is a reflection of the justice system's ability to evolve, or its refusal to do so. Their ongoing incarceration highlights the fragility of public trust in the legal process and raises critical questions about how we handle cases shaped by outdated perspectives and biases. I mean, as we've seen, this isn't just about Lyle and Erik. This is about all the cases where abuse was flat out ignored, where trauma was dismissed, and where punishment took a precedent over understanding. It's about the silence of the media, suddenly, the hesitation of the justice system, all of a sudden, and the power of the public to demand better. To the public, their continued imprisonment feels like a betrayal of the promises that were made by former officials. I mean, we can't forget, promises were made. It's also a betrayal of the progress society has claimed to make. Big things happened because of the public's voice. And then of the fundamental principle that justice should be fair and timely. The question we're left with is this: if we can't revisit this case with the transparency and urgency it deserves, what does that say about us? And it sure seemed like this case was headed in the right direction, right? According to the public. Then it just dissolved quietly into the background. I mean, the Menendez brothers may be two individuals, but this case is big because it represents a much larger battle for truth and accountability and the hope that even the most broken systems can change. As we approach their hearing in January, one thing is certain: the world will be watching if they pay attention. Will you be watching? Thank you for joining me in this special episode of Alexis Knight Investigates, here on True Crime, the Court of Public Opinion. Stay safe out there, guys. Ask the difficult questions, and always dig for the truth. Until next time, this is Alexis Knight.